All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for the Proving the Value of Your Leadership Development Programs. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jack Phillips. My name is Andy Vance. I'll be your producer today and support. If you have any technical questions, please pop them in chat and I'll make sure we can solve those issues. If you're having trouble with audio or you can't see Jack or any of the video, let me know. Dr. Jack Phillips is our chairman of the ROI Institute. He also developed the ROI methodology many years ago, and we're so excited to have him here, and we're so excited to have you as well. Jack, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yes. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. This gives us a chance to talk about a favorite topic, and that's how do you measure the success of leadership development, all the way to ROI. In essence, how do you prove that you made a difference? How do you prove the value of your program? It's just our favorite topic because we see the power of leadership development. We see it in so many different ways. It's needed, it's necessary, it's needed now. But at the same time, there's some people that says, you know, I got to see the value of this. I support it, we want it, we need it, we know, but show me how it connects to the business. Show me, make sure this is a good investment for us. So we need to push the evaluation to that level for some of those sponsors and funders and donors, those who often support our programs and give us the money for the programs. Yet there seems to be a lot of mystery. How do you do this? How do you take something so soft and turn it into something so hard and maybe even harsh like ROI? So we'll show you how to do that. And along the way, we've got some resources for you. We sent in advance an article just that we published this week. I'm just going to write this month with CLO magazine. Did you get the article? Did you read the article? Kind of gives you an overview of what we're covering today. I hope you had a chance to scan the article at least. It brings in the concept of hypothesis, evidence, and proof. And we want to think about those as we go through our process here. We also sent you a case study. A case study, it's from a manufacturing company. They make precision parts for automobiles primarily, but for other products as well. And they're using an off-the-shelf program called Leadership Challenge. So we took you through that process. And that particular case study is in our recent case study book called Proving the Value of Soft Skills, published by ATD, the Association for Talent Development. So we want you to see that case study step by step. Hopefully you had time to look at that in advance a little bit. We're going to take you through another study step by step and show you how it's done to give you some commentary along the way. We also give you a step-by-step process. I know some of you are thinking, do I have to read a 300-page book, which is this particular book? Do I have to read that to know how to do this? Not really. Remember, there's always a short version. You've got the short version. It's what we call the application guide. And the application guide looks like this. It's 32 pages. How do you do it? It's the ROI methodology in 12 easy steps. Easy is the key word. We're going to make this easy for you. This is 32 pages describing every step in that case study that you have. All those 12 steps, each step has at least a page in here. So it's a step-by-step guide. How do you do it? And we sent something, put something for you to download if you can. And that's the model. This is the step-by-step process that we'll be covering. It looks like this. 12 steps. We'll be talking about that. It's also in my background here. So if you have a chance, take that particular handout that's in your chat box and maybe put it on a different screen if you can, because we want to walk through those steps and show you what we're doing at each part of that process. It'd be helpful if you can do that. If you have the opportunity to print it out, that's even better. So that's the model. And we'll also think about two concepts as we go through the process. We're going to show you some benchmarking data, what our users are doing with this methodology, how they're tackling certain parts of it. So we'll bring some benchmarking. So we'll be giving you some benchmarking data, but we also give you our benchmarking report, which shows you how this is being done globally in so many countries. Also, we know that to make it work, to make learning work, to make leadership development work, we have to design for it. We're going to bring in the design thinking concept. We have to design for application and impact and ROI if we want that. And so to add to our content today, we want to give you this document. It's in the chat box for your downloading and use. It's called 30 Techniques to Design Virtual to Deliver Impact and ROI. We know most of our work is virtual now. Some of it's coming back in person, much of it will, but virtual has to be a big part of what we do. We have to make sure virtual is working. A lot of virtual doesn't work because of this topic. We don't design for application and impact. We'll be pointing that out as we look at a case study as we go through this process today. So those are materials. We want you to reflect about your situation. We want to think about your project that you have. We have some polling that will be taking place. We want your questions in the chat box. We have some activities. We want to actually do a calculation, so get your calculator handy. We want to do some calculation. We want you to be connected, be involved. So good to have you with us. I see so many good friends around the world. I see Jay Owens in South Africa that we worked with for so many years. And so it's good to see so many colleagues and friends. And so good to have you with us. So let's get started down this journey. Here's our objectives. And for this session, we want to show you the chain of value that is always there. The chain of value exists for any program that we have. And then we want to think about how do we measure, and why should we measure at the impact and ROI level? Why is that necessary these days? What's driving that? And how are we stepping up to that challenge? So let's look at that. And then think about, how do we design the programs? What do we do at each step to make sure that we've got the results that we want? So we'll take you through those steps all the way through 12 steps on a particular study. Then we think about, where do you go from here? Part of this journey is for you to get your own study. Some of you may have enough today to go do that. And we're going to show you where we'd like to have that and publish it with a major publisher. Others need some more help. We're going to show you a couple of ways to get there. So the key is to make sure that you have a study on a major leadership program measured at least to the impact, ideally to the ROI. That's where we want to be today. Now, unfortunately, leadership development breaks down. It doesn't deliver the results that we want. We see this in our work. We see it routinely. What causes it to break? Number one is waiting too late to start this discussion. You see, unfortunately, here's the scenario often. An organization implements a major leadership program. And when it's all done, these top executives says, well, that was interesting. It was good. Now, can you show us the impact of that program in our business? And maybe even the ROI. Uh-oh, we didn't plan for that. That's a surprise. That's not good. So we waited too long. And it's natural for a lot of people because we've been taught that. If you remember a model that many of us have thought about and worked on, it's called ADDIE, ADDIE, analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation, ADDIE. What does it tell us? Well, evaluation comes at the end. No. That's the proof that comes at the end. Evaluation starts at the beginning. It starts with why, and we're going to show you that. So that's one problem. Failure to connect to the business. That's so critical that the first step in our model is to always connect to the business to begin with. Why? connect to the business. We're going to show you how to do that quickly. Now, not expecting success. There's no saying we often get what we expect. Or as Deming, the great quality pioneer, says, every system is designed is perfectly designed to deliver the results that it was supposed to deliver. That is, it's designed to deliver what we design it to deliver. I mean, it delivers that. So what we're saying is, if we want impact at the end, we want a business measure at the end, we've got to design for it. And part of that's expecting success from everyone involved in it. And then a failure to design for the application and impact. We sometimes put all of our energy on designing for the learning. That's not enough these days. Think about virtual learning. If you look at all those virtual learning design books that are out there, big sellers, if you look at what are they focusing on? Designing for the event itself. And it's important because if there's no learning, nothing else happens. But we got to spend some of that design time designing for application and impact. And we often miss that, particularly with virtual. So we got to work on that all the way through our process. And the last one is our proof issue, not isolating the effects of our leadership program. You see, if you conduct a leadership program and a major impact measure moves, it changes, it improves, we know that there are other factors that are in place there. We got to make sure that we know how much we've contributed. So those are the 5 things that often get in the way to make this work. Now, let's remember the chain of value is always here. It's always in our process. This is a logical chain of how value is developed. It's been around for centuries. Actually, we trace it back to the 1800s. And it's the basis of so many, almost all of the evaluation models, including ours. It's a logical flow of data, a logic model. And it says, hey, we start here with inputs. That's the people who are involved in our program, how long they're in the program, and what does it cost? It's all inputs. It's important because we've got to have the right people at the right time for the right length of time and as efficient as we can. And then reaction. We all know that programs break down because people just didn't want it. They reject it. We got to have that right reaction. Those asterisks that you see there are very important reactions because they often will predict application, which comes later. We want a reaction that almost guarantees that they will use it. And those with the asterisk will often do that. And we're going to show you what's used in this particular case study that we will be evaluating. And learning, you know that now. You know, we have our skill practices and role plays and assessments, tests, and all those exercises and simulations that we have to measure learning. It's important. We have to have it. But that's not the end of the story. They've got to use it. Application. 3 things we need to know. Are you using it? Are you using it often? Is it successful with you? And while we're at it, could you tell us the barriers and enablers? What gets in the way? What helped it? So we've got to work on that. Now we get to impact. That's the consequence of application. See, we're doing something for a consequence. Application without a consequence is just being busy. We got to have that consequence. But the good news here, that's our business connection. That's the productivity and quality, waste, errors, rework, absenteeism, accidents, incidents, out of compliance discrepancies, process time, cycle time, sales, customer complaints, product returns, all of those things, they're in the system already there. We just got to connect to that. And when we do that, we have to sort out the effects of our program. See, this is the proof. We're going to start with an hypothesis, what we think we're going to measure. We're going to drive it in our process and actually measure it. And we see some change, that's evidence. And this is the proof that we made a difference, sorting out the effects of our program. We got to do that. Without it, we're not credible with our data. And then we go to ROI. See, for some, that's the ultimate evaluation. what do we get out of this on the monetary benefits compared to the cost of it? I want more benefits than the cost normally is what we want, at least as much. That's the ROI. We're going to use two calculations here. The most used, most common ROI calculations on the planet: a benefit cost ratio, which comes out of governments, and an ROI, which comes out of the business. So we'll show you those calculations and how it works. Just remember, chain of value is always there. It's just we didn't measure it, maybe. It's there. Now, we've got some challenges on the way, and I want you to get involved in a poll here with us. Let's see how you're thinking about learning and development overall, not just leadership, but learning and development, which leadership development is a big part of that. But just think about learning and development. I want you to tell me if you think this is true based on what you've seen, what you've witnessed, what you've observed, what you've experienced. Is it mostly true, mostly false? Let's take the first one. Most learning and development is wasted. That is, it's not used. We know that sometimes. Is that mostly true, mostly false? What do you think? And then the learning outcome desired by the executives is rarely measured. In other words, what they want to see, the senior executives, are we measuring that? And we're saying it's rarely measured. True, false. Mostly true, mostly false. And then the learning providers, that's us. We don't have data that shows we make a difference. By making a difference, that means we have data that shows they're using what they're learning and there's an impact. Remember, application results in an impact. A behavior change has a consequence. That's what we're looking for, both level 3 and level 4 there. So what do you think? We do not have data. Is that true or false? Mostly true, mostly false. And then, do our executives see learning as a cost or an investment? We say they see learning as a cost and not an investment. Is that true or false? Mostly true, mostly false. And then the last one, executives see hard skills as more valuable than soft skills. What do you think? Is that mostly true, mostly false? Andy launched the poll. He's done that. Quickly, I want to see a vote from you here. Where are you with this? Let's all vote quickly on all 5 of these. Mostly true, mostly false, based on your perception. Mostly true, mostly false, based on your perception.
All right, Jack, I think I'm sharing the results now. Can you see them?
Yes, 71% says it's true on that first one, that our L&D is wasted. Isn't that interesting? We know it, we see it. But see, just think about our budget. So we're saying basically we're wasting a lot of our budget. If you walk down the hall in your offices, when you get back to your office and you ask maybe a department like the procurement department, if you ask them, so how much of your budget do you think you're wasting? They'd probably say, we don't waste our budget here. But yet we're admitting that we're wasting a lot here. What you're saying is, we know it's waste because if they don't use it, there will be no impact. So it was a waste. And we know that happens so much. So a big challenge. We've been working on that for many years. We got to continue to focus on that. Now, let's look at the second one. What the executives want, we rarely measure. Now, a big number here, 94% says that's true. See, that's a little dangerous, isn't it? We say we know what they want, but we don't measure that. So why do we ignore that? I think we don't know how to do that. So we're going to work on that. Then number 3, we don't have data that shows we make a difference. 88% of you says true. Hey, this is pretty tough in the environment we're in now. If you say we don't make a difference, we don't have data that shows we make a difference. So we got to work on that. We really need to have that data. Now, number 4, Andy, what do you see there?
Well, we're getting 82% with the true. So most executives see learning as a cost and not an investment. So
82%. 82%. Now, you know what happens when it's a cost? it's paused, it's frozen, it's trimmed, it's eliminated, because that's what executives do with cost. But if it's an investment and they see it as investment, hey, maybe they'll protect it, enhance it, give you more of it maybe. Hey, we've got to convince them this is an investment. How do you do that? Show them the return on investment using the same calculation that your chief financial officer would use. That's what we want to do here. Get to that number. And the last one, Andy, what do you have for that?
Most executives view hard skills more valuable than soft skills. We're getting 88% with the true.
Yes, we hear executives talk about, technology and STEM, for example, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, or technical training, or IT training, or job-related tasks training. All of those are often considered to be hard skills. Soft skills, the number one soft skill is going to be probably leadership development, what we're discussing today. Well, we have a lot of those other skills of communication and empowerment, critical thinking, collaboration, all of those good skill sets that make a difference. We know they're important. And in fact, you'll have executives claim that they're more important because they say, we want to create the most sustainable organization, or the most creative organization, or the most admired organization, or the best places to work. All of those comes from soft skills, not the hard skills. Hey, and we've got lots of data that shows that it's a lot more valuable. It delivers even higher ROIs. And we've got some educating to do. I don't want them to start cutting our soft skills because they see it as fluff. Our partner in Australia told us recently, he said, Jack, we're trying to avoid the F word down in Australia. We said, now, what does that mean? He says, well, when an executive calls something fluff, they know it's in trouble because they reduce it, they minimize it, they cut it, they don't support it. And soft skills are often in their mind fluff. We got to change that. We try to avoid the F word, the fluff word. We don't want to be called fluff. Hey, we can show them the fluff gives you more value than the hard skills. That's what we need to do. So we got our work cut out for us. We got to do this. We got to work on this as we go forward here. Now, let's look at, I'd like to know something else from you. Why are you here today? Why are you pursuing this now? And so we've got some options here. You can check all of these or just one of them. Number one is top executives are requiring ROI. I need this now. Number two is I have pressure to justify my budget, particularly after the pandemic here. I need to pursue this. And I'm looking ahead. Number three is I know I'll have to do this in the future. And number four is I want to be responsible and show the value of what I've been given here. We have lots of resources here. I want to make sure that we're using them properly. And the last one is, hey, I'm trying to find new techniques. I'm experimenting here, different ways of showing the value of what I do. So now let's see from the poll, where are you? Why are you here? Check.
Jack, we're still getting a few answers in, so just give me a second.
Yes.
All right, I think we have enough for a consensus. Here we go.
Okay, good news here. Of course, the number one here is, I know I'll have to do this in the future. That tracks most people who are trying to predict the new normal. We'll have to show value in the future in more ways than we've had previously. We agree with that. That's the number one here. But it looks like more of you are toward the bottom of this, which is really proactive. This is good news, because if you've got executives asking for ROI now, that's not good. 15% of you have that now. That's tough because when they ask for it, they want something quickly. So you have a short timeline. You like to have a long timeline. And when they ask for it and you didn't prepare for it, you're now defensive. So you're defending. So if someone has made a decision or perception, maybe this is not working. So they're giving us a chance to show that. We're being defensive. We want to be on the offensive. And then finally, it's on their agenda and not ours. I want to keep ROI on our agenda, not theirs. And so this is a problem for us. Let's don't wait there. The good news is that 85% of us are not in that situation. So let's don't wait for that. Let's prevent that request by showing them some data. But you can still get out of your jam just by tackling some of these issues now. And we can certainly talk you through some of this if you've got a real serious problem. We've had lots of those conversations lately. We can do that. So it's good news is that a lot of us are looking at, like we've got 67% says, I want to look for new techniques. This is great. We got you where we need you. And let's look at those. How do we do this? And so we're going to design for results here. So you notice in this methodology, this is a methodology for the delivery of business results. So we're delivering it. So you're really doing three things here. You're designing for the impact and ROI. You're designing for the results that we want. You're also delivering that results through the process here. And finally, you're measuring the success. So you see the results. So we call it a proactive evaluation system. It's a system you need to start thinking about as soon as you think about a new program, not after it's conducted. That's almost too late, as we've talked about. So the very first thing we do over here is to start with why, connect to the business. I want to talk you through some ways to do that as we get into the process here. Connect it to the business to the beginning. And this is a challenge for us sometimes, leadership development, because we're thinking behavior. That's not business, no. But you see, and we say, well, that's what our executives want, is the behavior. I'd say, no, they don't. They want the consequences of the behavior, not the behavior. We say, well, they want inclusive leadership now. Yes, but they really want the results from inclusive leadership, not just the behavior. Behavior is the means to get to that. It's not the end. And we've evolved over a period of time here as we've evaluated leadership development. Years ago, we would be working on just the reaction. If you go back far enough, back when Jay Owens on our screen here, back in the days when he had lots of hair, and I had lots of hair, we evaluated leadership reaction. Do you like this program? Is it helpful for you? Is it something that you really think it has value? See, that we stopped there sometimes, and then we got into learning, making sure we know how to do this. Great skill building exercises, and making sure we knew how to tackle those issues and do those issues in the leadership realm. But then we migrated probably a couple of decades ago to level 3. That is, we're measuring behavior, learning, the use of the learning. And the 360 feedback enabled that. We got great data showing we use that. But now executives saying, I think we need this. We need to see how it helps the business. Yes, we support this. Yes, we want this. But you can look at comments and studies reported in Forbes and Fortune, Harvard Business Review, to name a few, and even individually, even in the front page of a newspaper sometimes, as we saw in London, major stories about failure of leadership development. We don't want to hear that. We've got to get that working so we don't have those critics. So we need impact. And because it's so expensive these days and we invest so many resources behind it, we got to make sure we're using the resources wisely. That's the ROI. So up front is the time to think about that in the beginning when we get started. But step 2 here is making sure that we have the right solution. And think about your entire history of work. Have you ever seen anyone implement the wrong solution? I know you haven't, but we've seen others do it, right? So we've got to make sure that leadership development is the solution to the business problem that we've just identified. We got a business measure we're trying to improve, want to make sure we can. The good news is that leadership development is so powerful, so flexible, it can solve a lot of problems and often does. And then we got to expect success. Hey, there, we want to make sure that we define success of leadership development at the impact level. It's not successful until we get to the impact. The behavior change is just a way to get to that. Let's don't stop short of where we need to be. So we define that, but we then set objectives for reaction, learning, application, impact, and yes, ROI for going there. And those objectives now give us the focus at each level with very specific data. We like to have objectives with key results at each level, key result, OKRs as we call them sometimes. And then we give those to the designers and the developers and the participants and the managers of the participants, the owners of the process, the facilitators, and yes, the evaluator. We're all designing for success at level 4 now. We're all doing what we do with tools and templates and processes and encouragement and support to get to impact. That's where we want to be. So we flip this around. We say we're designing for the results that we want. No longer are we satisfied with just learning. No longer are we satisfied with just getting behavior. We got to see that impact. But it's clear when we start with that impact. And that's what we're talking about here. Those first 3 steps, unfortunately, for leadership development aren't actually done so well in most projects we've seen. We've got to work on those. Those first 3 set us up for where we need to be. Because next we want to make sure it matters by collecting level 1 and 2, make sure it matters to the people involved, participants, and make it stick, make sure it's used. That's level 3, level 4. When we get to level 4, that's the impact data. All of those good impact data, productivity, retention, accidents, incidents, waste, errors, rework, customer complaints, product returns, sales, all of that stuff. That's outcomes from our leadership development. When we have that, here's our proof. So collecting that data and seeing that data change is evidence that we made a difference. Starting with it over here in the beginning is a hypothesis. We expect it to improve. Now we collect the data and we got evidence here. But now here's the proof. Make it credible by always sorting out the effects of our program. So we'll show you the techniques there very quickly, show you what our benchmarking teams are doing these days to sort out the effects of our program. But now we got to get it to money. If you go into ROI, we got to convert those impacts to money. The good news is that most of them are already converted to money in our system already. Like turnover. Hey, we know the cost of turnover these days. Accidents, incidents, out of compliance discrepancies, product returns, sales, customer complaints. We've got money for those. We've got to make sure it's credible. You notice in this series of blocks here, they all start with the word make it credible. Because we envision executives are going to be looking at this. The chief financial officer may be looking at this. Make it credible first is to sort out only a part that we've done. And then we make sure that we're conservative in our converting data to money. Even if we're using something standard already accepted, we want to make sure it's accepted and supported by the executives. And then we make it credible by putting in all of the costs, direct and indirect, make it credible. And we make it credible by using the two most common calculations on the planet for ROI, BCR and ROI as a percent. But we recognize that some of our data sets could not be converted to money. Those are the intangibles, like teamwork, collaboration, networking, image. Hey, we've seen all of those converted to money, but in most organizations, they haven't. So if we cannot convert it to money credibly, with a reasonable amount of time, we leave it as an intangible, still important, just not converted to money. It won't be in our calculation. We make it credible by making sure we connect the intangible to our program. We can do that easily. We'll talk about that. Then we got a great story to tell. Stories come from data we collect for level 1 as they react, level 2 as they've learned, and level 3 as they've used what they've learned and the impact that they have. Sometimes they're surprised to see how leadership development has made a difference. So we get those great stories and we got data to go with it. We've got 6 types of data now: reaction, learning, application, impact, ROI, and the intangibles. So we've got numbers and narrative. What a great story we have to get that attention. Then we're going to use that to optimize the results of our program. See, we're going to use process improvement to its nth degree here. We use the black box thinking that the aviation field uses to improve the safety of airline travel. You know, those black boxes are there when a plane crash occurs. They look at that systems recorder and voice data recorder, and they find out what caused the crash so that they can correct it next time. And they design something different. They change procedures, they change training, they do things to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's made airline travel the safest travel in the world. It's also made airline travel, and being in an airline at 30,000 feet is one of the safest places you can be. I know we have a hard time thinking about that, but it is because of that issue. Relentless focus on process improvement. Bring that same thinking to your programs to make them better. So we're optimizing the ROI from our program. And when you optimize the ROI, you're making a great case now to get more funding, to keep your funding, to get more support, to get more influence. And that's what we want to do in that last step. There you have it. 12 easy steps to do this. So I'd like to go through these in a little more detail, point out some things here. But I got some good news for you first. I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, Jack, this is so time consuming to do all of this. Well, there's a lot of easy things we can do. We're going to share the joy to a lot of people here. But the good news is that we shouldn't evaluate all of our programs to impact an ROI. This is our best practice benchmarking. This is the percent of programs, when you look at all of your learning programs or all your leadership development programs, just saying this is the percent maybe that's worthy of evaluation all the way to impact and ROI. These are minimums here. But notice the benchmarking. You get a copy of our benchmarking report. You can see that the highest level we've seen in a long time from our most recent benchmarking, our users are really pushing this more evaluation at level 4 and 5 than we've ever seen before. And that's important because they're trying to be proactive here and not get that request for ROI. They're trying to keep that request from ever occurring because they're trying to understand which programs need this and start working on this. So which ones need the ROI? You can see it here. Not here, I'm sorry. We don't have that list. It's actually on your document. Your document, your application guide lists the rationale for selecting programs for this level. Let me just mention those to you. Number one is the cost of the program. The most expensive program you have is probably your best candidate for ROI. And another one is this an important program working on a particular goal these days? Yes, if it's that important, maybe push it to that level. We're going to show you something based on empathetic and intrusive leadership. That's an important issue. That's a goal in the company to work on this. And if it's that important, commanding a lot of resources, maybe it's that important to push it to impact and ROI. Or maybe it's part of strategy. If it's a program that's part of strategy, hey, maybe it's important enough to push to that level. And think about programs that generate management interest. Which programs do they want to see pushed to this level? And we've asked that question, had these conversations so many times with executives, and it's usually the soft skills that they have concerns about. They don't see the connection very clearly. And your number one soft skill is leadership development. They support it, but they just want to see that connection. And you would too if you were buying it. So that's the good news. So now let's take this particular program. This is a large technology company. I don't have their permission to tell you. If you need to know, I think I could privately, and with they're okay, you'd recognize it. But they're doing what a lot of companies did. This was actually in 2019, before the pandemic is when this program was conducted. Some of the data was collected early last year. And they were recognizing that they need to do a better job of getting their leaders tuned in to their employees and to be more with more empathy, a lot of listening, a lot of support, and a lot of inclusion, including them, making sure they feel a part of the organization or included in so many things. So they come to these 8 skill sets here that would be very common with this kind of program. So that's our skill set here that we're looking at. So we have these parts of it. You've got some e-learning up front, a little e-learning module on each of the skills to point out what's involved. So you got 8 of those. 2 days of classroom with action plans. You saw action plans in that case study that we sent you. That's a great example of how you use action plans. They're using it here. And post to make sure that they use it. We've got some coaching videos to help them through certain situations when they have them. You've got some, you got coaches actually, and then you've got the review videos that actually gives them some help and guidance at the time they need it. And they create the network of the people who've been in the program so they can continue to stay together and support each other and help each other. Those 3 things are put in place to design for application and impact, to make sure they're using it. That's a critical thing these days, as we pointed out. Now let's go through the alignment. Now, so they wanted to embark on this program. They felt that they needed to be more inclusive. And so in early discussions, we said, so why do you need this? Well, it's a big focus on all of the things we're doing, but okay, but what happens when you do this? You do it well. Well, after some discussion here, keep probing a little bit more, we get them to say, well, we're probably having a little more turnover than we need. Not a big issue, but we think some turnover here. People are leaving because they don't feel supported by their boss as much as they could be, or included in the organization to the extent that they want to be. Okay, anything else? Well, right along with that was some transfers. They don't like this boss, maybe they transfer to another boss, and we allow that. We ask that they work 6 months in a place and you can transfer. So we think some of that is because of the leader and some of the skill sets we've identified. Anything else? Well, if they don't feel, they don't like the boss as well as they should, and they don't feel involved, they may take a few more days off than they normally would. So it's unplanned absenteeism. They think some of that. But then there's other measures out there that may be. So let's don't assume that just these 3 measures is it. Let's look at for others. And so what they're doing here is with some discussion, dialogue, looking at data where we are. We have to go look at those transfers. We look at the turnover. Wow. And we look at absenteeism to make sure that those are excessive in some places. Because if it's not a problem, you may still need it to prevent it from being a problem, but you're not solving a problem. But they thought they really had a problem, and it was. But they thought there may be some other things about delivery of services and the time to complete projects, and some of those things could be also impacted. They're not sure. That may be up to the person who's coming. So a good indication here, a connection to some measures, at least 3, possibly others. The question would be, is this the right solution? And so there's some logical saying, well, yes, the content here should help them get to that. Logically, and there's some benchmarking that shows us other people have gone down this path. And yes, it looks like it would fit. But let's make sure. And the best test of that is have the leaders who are coming to say, we want you to select some measures to improve. We got 3 we think that many of you will have. Retention, transfers, and unplanned absences. But there may be others. We want you to select a couple of measures. It could be the 2 measures of these 3, or it could be something else in the mix. But we want you to look at those measures. Those are your routine measures. And we want you to see in your mind, can you improve those measures using these skill sets, using these competencies? So that's just a quick exercise to make sure we have the right solution. Because they say, I've got the measures, but I don't think this program will deliver it. Well, then we say, okay, let's check, are there any other measures your team has? We're trying to see if there's a connection here. But as you probably know and would expect, yes, you get a hit here almost in every case, because they see that this can affect that. And they're willing to give it a try. And that's what we want. So we've taken that step there. That's our step number 2, to make it feasible, making sure that it's the right solution. And we're working off of this model here as we work through the process. We're connecting to the business at first.
Wow.
We're making sure that we got the right solution. This is a good alignment tool here that you can actually put in front of your client as you're having these discussions. So you're working off of the measures that you want to see. This is the value chain. This is what we want to see in the end. But this is all driven by objectives. We need objectives at the different levels. And the objectives are driven by needs at different levels. And so we're talking through the business alignment here. Payoff needs saying, is this a problem worth solving or an opportunity worth pursuing? And if you've got a problem of retention and absenteeism and transfers, is that a problem worth pursuing? They concluded yes. And what is it we need to be doing different? How should we be performing? And that's how they arrived at the skill sets. We need to be doing these things with our team. We want to validate for sure that we're not doing that now and we don't know how to do it now. Because what we want to see is if they need to do this, we ask, do they know how to do it comfortably now? And the answer was, it's not being done now so well, and they don't really know how to do it. That's important because it's make sure we have the right solution here to make it work. So you can see these things come together to make the solution. The preference is how do we want this perceived? So we've got it set the way we want now. And we expect success. 3 things we said, it's not successful until you get to the impact. We set objectives now at multiple levels. And we give those objectives to all the stakeholders so that as a team now, we design for the success we want. So we put in things like action plans. We develop all kinds of tools to support them and help them, make it easy for them. We decide we create the networking that's going on and that we'd have a coach there to help them, support them. We'd have these review videos that's going to help them get to this. That's designing for what we want. Part of this is the objectives. I want a little exercise for you. If you would take a piece of paper and put 1 to 5 here, 5 examples here, and I want you to tell me at what level are we evaluating if we collect data to see if we met that objective. So the first one says, after completing this project or program, participants should decrease employee transfers by 20% in 1 year. If I collect data to see if I have met that objective, what level am I evaluating? Is it reaction? Is it learning? Is it application? Is it impact? Is it ROI? So put a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And the next one, After completing this program, participants should listen intently to team members routinely. And the next one is to be able to demonstrate the 5 steps to diffuse a conflict given two individuals in a heated argument. What level is that? Reaction, learning, application, impact, ROI. Rate the content to be 4 out of 5 on relevance to me. And then decrease the amount of time required to complete a project. Is that reaction? Is that learning? Is that application? Is that impact? That ROI? So you've got numbers now, 1 to 5, off to the side. Let's see how you're doing. First one's 4. Does that agree with yours? That's an impact. Second one's 3. I'm using something. I'm doing something. And the third one is 2. Be able to demonstrate. See, that's a learning. That's a role play or skill practice right there in the classroom portion of the program. And the fourth one is my reaction, relevance. I see it as relevant. And so it's a reaction data. The last one is impact. I'm doing something different with my team, and consequently, we're getting our projects done quicker. So the point we're making here is that this is a powerful change here. We know you work off of learning objectives now. You got to push those up to level 4 and 5. Remember, we've got to do that. And I just wanted to mention that ATD, one of our supporters and partners here for what we do, they recognize this in a book that we wrote with them about 13 years ago now. The title of the book is Beyond Learning Objectives. The message they're getting to the audience, their members, is that we got to develop measurable objectives that link to the bottom line. We got to go beyond learning objectives. We've got to do that. And the key thing of the leadership program is to have those impact objectives. So you've connected to the business in the beginning. Now we're going to keep focused through the program. And as we follow up and use this, our total focus now is on getting to level 4. That's our impact. That's why we're here. And now we make it matter. They collect some reaction data here. These are very important ones. These are all will predict success in the future. They collected level 2 with role plays, skill practice, making sure that they demonstrate that they could do each of those 8 skills. That's a level 2 assessment from the facilitator. To make it stick, they have a questionnaire here for extensive use and success with use. The action plans that they have show the impact measures. So there's your data sets. Make it matters, collecting 1 and 2, reaction and learning, make it stick 3 and 4. So let's think about data collection methods. We know that questionnaires are our most common. Databases right out of for level 4 is here. We're going to get those data sets for level 4, often right out of our databases. Action plans are very popular. Again, you saw a good example in the case study, precision manufacturing. How do you set an action plan? Now, this is a powerful thing. This is our proving the value, isolate the effects of our program. They tried experimental versus control group, but it wouldn't match up very well because you have 48 people that you're evaluating. It's hard to find 48 people in a similar job with the same measures that they needed to improve. That's the key thing. So apples to apples didn't match up so well. They tried trendline analysis. Trendline analysis looks like this very quickly. This is like a turnover data, a turnover of critical talent. And you see something like this, you want it to go down, you project the pre-programmed data into the post period, and then you look at actual versus trend. You claim this much if you make 2 conditions. One, would the pre-programmed trend continue if we did nothing? And then we ask the condition here, did anything else cause that? It's a simple technique.
Great job, great job.
They try it, but it was too much work for the participant or too much work for the team. So they went to estimates from participants. So now let's show you what others are doing. Our benchmarking shows you this. Here's some good news. Experimental versus control group, 34%. That's about a third. That's good news. This little simple trend line, 40% of the time. And then there's mathematical modeling. See, if we see something else is in there that's causing that measure to improve, we'd go ask the owner of that other process and ask them, do you have some kind of mathematical relationship that's coming out of this that connects those two processes? If so, I want to use your model to predict where it would be. And if it still has improvement, I want to claim that. It's using someone else's model to claim your success. Now, this 28% is quite high. It's been hovering around in our benchmarking around 10%, 5 to 10% normally. It's popped up. We think that's because of the analytics that are out there. The fallback is estimates from participants. We got to make sure that we have the most credible people to give us this data.
Fantastic.
The participants are the most credible people. We work off of standards. In your package, you're going to have standards here. Guiding principle, one of those is make sure we have the most credible source. And then when you have them sorted out, you do an error adjustment here. What is your confidence in that? And so we actually take their own error out of the process. That's what we're doing here for this process. This is the most important step in the process to make sure we sorted it out. Then we make it credible. The good news here is that money is already there. So cost of turnover came from the HR, transfers from HR, absenteeism came from the payroll section. So they've got numbers for those three measures there. And that's not unusual. You'll have data already there. So when you look at benchmarking, what we're saying is we have standard values already there. That means that it's been reported to us. And you can see 52% of our time, our users are finding that. But now, if that's not there, we go to experts, and you can see 45% of the time. So that's what was done here, is go to the experts there to get the data. If not, we could go to external databases. We could find the cost of absenteeism and turnover there if we needed to. So we've got estimates. We've got different ways of getting there. We can get to the money. It's just that sometimes we don't see it in front of us. We have to go look a little bit. And then here's what's happening to us. Here's some data right off the action plans. Gets us to the monetary benefits. Not all of them tackled these three measures. Here's the three measures. You can see how many, 20 out of the 48 tackled turnover, 14 actually reported results, 26 tackled the transfers. You can see 9 got that, 18 tackled absenteeism. And it looks like they got that, at least some of them did, but it gave a total days. Some of this was, this is the total of all of those days for the group that we have here, 25 days. So those are improvements connected to the program, sorted out by the team. See, this is how much they give to that program delivered. Leadership development influences measures. About a third of the value goes to this program here. You can see that's the confidence, that's the error adjustment. Those two are multiplied to discount. 43%, that was quite high. And it's 76% confidence, going to multiply those numbers. See, what we're doing here is sorting out only part of the improvement goes to my program, isolating the effects of the program by participants' estimate. Very, very credible and very accurate, because we've compared this with experimental versus control group, and it's amazing. It's the wisdom of crowds that we have going on here. So now we got the unit cost for these. So we annualize that. We do that because one principle here, it says if it's a short-term solution, we use the first year benefits. We decided this is a short-term solution because it's only 2 days off the job. So we want this thing to pay off in 1 year of improvement. And that's what we have here, annualizing. So these are the three measures in mind. You can see how much changed. And here's some measures reported off of the questionnaire that involve other measures. You've got some money here. All of those come together with monetary benefits. We also have those things that not converted to money. That's the intangibles. they were asked to connect the intangibles to the money, and that's what we have. And excuse me, connect it to the program on a 1 to 5 scale. Here's the cost. Cost includes all of the cost of this process, and there you have it, 387,000. Those come together. Let's get our calculator out for a minute. I want you to calculate this with me. So you've got benefits of 762,000, cost of 384. If you put those in your calculator, you can see some numbers here that we want to calculate. So we have a BCR, benefit cost ratio of 1.97. That's telling us that for every dollar we invest, we have another $1.97 in benefits if we're using US dollars. ROI now is benefits minus the cost. So this is the net divided by cost. That gives us 97% ROI. That means for every dollar we invest, we get our dollar back plus another dollar, almost 97 cents. So that's, you've got a great story to tell now, getting data out to lots of other people, getting them to buy into the data, support the process, and then make some process improvements here. You always make improvements. You've got a good opportunity here to make some adjustments, make things better. One of the things they decided is to just open this up to any measure and not force them into those 3 that they thought was the issue. It's much better to do that if we can. But they wanted to go with those 3. Let's see what we're doing here. But there's probably a lot of other measures they might have picked up. That makes it better. The end result is that you got support funding. It wasn't probably in question anyway, but now that won't be a question at all because we remove that because you've delivered such a great program and value. Reputation is there. It's just that easy, 12 steps. So we know it's fast, short opportunity here to go through this. We want to take you through and say, it is easy to get there. We'd like to help you get there. If you need another case study, let us know. We sent you one out of this book already. You've got another one. We can send you this case study that we just described with the words behind it if you'd like. But we're going to also send you an article that's about using design thinking to deliver the results you want. That's the basis of this process. We've got certifications. We've got one we've actually planning just for leadership development. It's in May. We're going to let you know about that later. And here's a project. This is a challenge for you. If you want to go down this path, there's things you can do. You may have enough now with some more resources to go off and do this. If so, we'll applaud you and we'll support you. If you need to go more, we have a 6-hour boot camp on Monday, actually, just to go into this in more detail, showing more examples. So, but our certification is what so many people have done. We've had about 16,000 people to go through our certification. That's a detailed program. It's about 30 hours where people bring their project into the process. You learn in detail how do you do this, and we stay with you coaching all the way through. So what happens in that process is that you bring a project, you develop this capability, you complete your study, we stay with you till it's done, and you have the designation of certified ROI professional. Over 6,000 have that designation now. And we have a new book on the way. It's called Proving the Value of Leadership Development, Real Studies from Top Leadership Development Providers. We'd love to have you in there if you're willing to go down this path. This is an opportunity. Let us know if you're interested. Here's some freebies that's available. To download, you can go to this website. You'll have the slides and find some things that you might need and help, more case studies. And you can unsubscribe so you don't get any more detail from us if that's what you want. But the key thing is let's move forward. Remember, when it comes to delivering results from your programs, your leadership program, hope is not a strategy. Luck is not a factor. Doing nothing is not an option. Change is inevitable. It's happened. We've got to deliver this value for our major programs. Progress is optional. It's up to us. Do you have any questions? I think we'll take time for one question here. I know we're running a little bit late here.
Jack, could you go back to the calculation slide, please? We had
Yes.
questions. And while you're doing that, we had a few questions about finding solutions. Sometimes we need to search for solutions a little longer. Good communication helps. Any other ideas? And I know we went through a little bit of.
Yes. Yes. In fact, we usually devote a good bit of time to that, but we just didn't have it here. Yes, it's one thing is to get the people involved to sort it out, as we did here in this case study. But we might could do some analysis. You see, if it maybe we have a problem to start with. For example, we had an organization that for a railroad company that's having a problem with turnover, and they want a leadership program to deliver that. So we have to go in there and then analyze the turnover and find out why it's happening. What's causing the turnover? Make sure that it points toward the behavior of the manager, because it could not be. So you can use some analytical tools. So you have a lot of dialogue and discussion. We call that performance consulting, as we're having that discussion around that V model that we had. But we also may have some tools and diagnostic tools that can help us understand a problem and arrive at a solution. Yes, this is a big issue. I agree. Be happy to send you some more material. In fact, I could send you a chapter out of one of our books on just this topic of selecting the right solution. That might help. And I'd be happy to have a dialogue with you to set up a call when we get there. And now here's the calculation. Andy, what do we have here?
I think they just wanted to see the ROI calculation, how to do it. So
Yes.
Maybe just go over real quick what.
Yes. So we got the benefits. Remember, that came primarily from the three measures they thought, and that was turnover, or transfer, reduction of turnovers, transfers, and absenteeism, but some other measures in there as well. That's the total monetary value for a whole year. And it's been sorted out. That is, only part of the value is actually here. It's a lot more. We only claiming part of it. We sorted out the effects. And our method was going to the most credible person, the participant. They sorted it out. We adjust for the error. You can see that taking place in the case study that we sent you in precision manufacturing. Very similar process here. So you got monetary benefits, you got the cost of the program. And that cost, by the way, is all of these costs here. Everything is in here. So we don't leave anything out. So you put that cost in there. You've got the benefit cost ratio. It's just a ratio of the two. We sometimes call it 1.97 to 1. That means for every $1 we invest, we get 1.97 in benefits. ROI is now net. It's earnings. How much did we make off this project? Well, we spent this much and we got this much benefit. So that's the earnings really that we made off of this, divided by the cost of it, or the investment now. Times 100 lets us put a percent on it, and that's 97%. That's a rate of return. And that's telling us for every dollar we invest, we get our dollar back plus another dollar. It's actually 97 cents. That's huge. And that's now using a formula right out of the playbook for a finance and accounting manager, right out of the finance and accounting textbook. That's ROI. Other questions? Well, thank you for being here. Let us know if we can help you any way. Remember, we have lots of resources. We do this all the time. We've been working with leadership development for so many years. We see more studies on leadership development, literally thousands of those. So we know how to do this. We can help you get there. Let us know if we can help you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for staying on a little longer than anticipated. If you have any questions or we didn't get to your question, go ahead and contact us. You can email Jack directly or email me. We'll be happy to set up a quick consultation call. And again, remember, all roads lead to ROI. So and we're here for you at any point. So thank you again. Thank you, Jack.
I don't mind staying on here for a few minutes if someone wants to ask their question now. Sorry for running over just a little bit, but here we got time here for you. If you got a question you want to talk about it now, we'll be happy to do that.
We did have one, if you've got a moment. How does time come into the value proposition or the cost proposition of the ROI calculation?
Well, our time is several issues. First, the time we have to wait to impact, we determined that in our planning process. This, I think, was 6 months after the program was implemented. We measured the impact data. So that's one time question, is waiting till that time. The other time question is how long do we claim that value? We're going to claim it for a year. It's one of our standards. That's a time measure. And the other time measure may be what you're asking about. What's the time value of money? We're spending money now on a program and don't have it for maybe a year later completely. And so there's a time value of money. So we can adjust the cost of this to reflect what we could earn if we put this money in some kind of savings account, for example. If we could earn 3% somewhere else on this money, then we've lost that because we didn't put it in that. So we adjust the cost for that time value of money. And so it's going to decrease our ROI just a little bit, but it doesn't have much impact here because the cost of the alternative investments have a very low return these days. And it's only 1 year. But we recommend that. It's in our books. It's a time value of money. We want to make that little adjustment in there. And what this team in this particular case study didn't think it was enough to make that adjustment. It really materially wouldn't affect the number very much. That would be more like a 93, 94% ROI maybe. Or even maybe 96% ROI. It's a very small number. So that's the time, how time fits into that in 3 different areas. Other questions?
Kind of a two-parter. What education level is needed for these economic questions? And are there any thoughts about a diverse portfolio for the best ROI?
What's the last part?
Any thoughts about a diversified portfolio for best ROI?
Yes. Okay, so the first part, what was the first one again? I'm sorry.
Is there an education level needed?
Yes,
for,
okay, got you. All right. Now, first, that's a great question. We get that often. We purposely try to keep this simplified as much as possible. We want it to be user-friendly. And in doing so, we make the statement that the mathematics needed for this is probably at the 4th grade level in our school systems. In other words, you don't have to have a degree in math and math and the statistics to get there. You don't need finance and accounting background or finance and accounting knowledge. We're just looking at costs that are in the system. We look at this calculation, this ratio, which is right out of finance and accounting. It's easy to understand, easy to use. So we keep the math low. So anyone can tackle this from a math standpoint, math and finance and accounting, essentially. It does require us to have an interest and a passion about showing the value of what we do, passion for some kind of analysis like this, and some knowledge of the operation so we can find some of the data sets that we need, and a good communication skills along the way, because we have to have a lot of dialogue with our customers here, who's the people involved in this. Good communication skills, a good decision-making skills as we analyze and look at data. So I don't know if that helps or not, but really we don't suggest that you have to have a degree in any particular thing here to make this work. Now, in terms of portfolio, best ROI, yes. What you could do is, some people look at this as like a portfolio analysis. We've got these programs. I want to show the ROI of all of these programs because I only have 5 leadership programs, and I'd like to show the ROI on all of those so we can see which among my portfolio is delivering the most value. And you can even stack them from the highest value to the lowest value. The concern I have is that we shouldn't judge a program just on the ROI number alone. And I know that's what we're leading to, and that's what we've calculated. But let's remember, we have 6 types of data. We got reaction, learning, application, impact, ROI, and intangibles. In my mind, the intangibles are just as important here. And we had the intangibles here, and I didn't take the time to spend much time on that, but I'll just show you the intangibles. These are very important. In my mind, these are just as important, if not more important, as the ROI calculation. And you're connecting the program to these measures by asking this question. Tell us the extent to which this program has influenced this measure on a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is no influence, 5 is very significant amount. So that tells us that we're connected to these important measures. So that's level 4 data, not converted to money. Also, we've got level 4 data, the impacts of improvements in retention and transfers and absenteeism. That's value right there, even if we didn't go to ROI. And then behavior. Remember, most leadership programs, the evaluation stops at behavior change. We could do that here and just know that they're using these 8 skill sets. These 8 competencies are being used. That's important to us. We've got something that probably is going to be sustained. And that's what we want, sustainable results. So I'd be careful of ranking things by ROI, because ROI might not be your most important data set. Now, see, a lot of CFOs love that. A lot of CEOs love it. As Warren Buffett says, it's a way to keep score. And we use it every day in our everyday lives. When we make purchases, you decide, is this purchase worth what I'm paying for it? Mentally, we think through that. Even if we're buying a cheeseburger, we make that decision. So ROI is a concept that's really common, but we rarely get to this kind of analysis to show in monetary value what that really means. But we can do it, as we just showed you. So yes, you can work with a portfolio, even rank them, classify them around the ROIs, but let's be careful of just putting so much weight on that one number. Questions?
We've got a couple more. We can keep going if you'd like.
I'm okay.
But, so here's a good one about intangibles. Is it difficult to get a handle on intangibles? Is there a lot of repetition needed to get the messages of intangibles across to the users?
Yes, that's a good point. See, sometimes these are measures we don't have in our system. For example, in this category, we probably don't have an innovation measure or a compassion measure. We may have job satisfaction data. We probably have engagement data. The quality of work depends on where we are. So this is maybe a concept just like productivity. Trust, we don't have a measure. Collaboration, we don't. Recruiting impact, that could be a measure. That's how quickly we can get people to come here and work with us, and the quality of those people we're getting. So we could actually measure that and see it, and even convert it to money maybe. But stress, we can convert that to money, but most don't, and we don't even measure that in most organizations. But you can still report it out because you're using a scale now. The person is telling us, just like collaboration. Take that example. Tell us the extent to which this program, this leadership program, has influenced collaboration on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is no collaboration, 2 is some, 3 is moderate, 4 is significant, 5 is very significant. See, you're measuring it now with the perception scale, but your collaboration and trust and those things will probably be perceptions anyway. Doesn't make it inferior because it's perception, it's still important, just like customer satisfaction and net promoter score and job satisfaction and job engagement. Those are all perception measures. So intangibles are probably be listed, they will be perceptions for the most part, but they're still important. Executives can connect to them and relate to them. We just got to make sure that they're connected to our program. Hey, Tom, do you have any questions? It's good to have you with us this morning. This is Tom. Any questions here? You okay with everything? We're okay. Jade, does this bring back a lot of memories?
Hello, Jack. Thank you. Yeah, super. I really enjoyed it. One question from my side. What if you get a negative ROI?
Yes, good question. Hey, we have that. Unfortunately, about a half of the studies we see are negative, but it's a process improvement opportunity. That is, you know what has caused it because your data tells you along the way. Was it because we had the wrong people there? That's level 0. So I'll go over here for a minute as we look at this. Sometimes it's level 0 caused because we had the wrong people there, or they had no opportunity to use the skills. We didn't have them long enough, and we didn't have them at the right time. That's all input. Or it could be they never saw value in this, so we didn't get the reaction. Or maybe they didn't learn it so well. Or maybe they just didn't use it. This is where it normally breaks down. And it may be that the impact that we thought was not the right impact. So we have a mismatch here. So it's so many places where this could break down, but our data is going to tell us this because we're collecting along the chain. And when we ask comments from people about what are the barriers, what kept you from being successful, what are the enablers, what helped you, and what's your suggestion for improvement, they give us good data here. So we've got good news. Now, sometimes people are afraid that if it's negative, it's going to reflect on me and my program. After all, I've implemented the program. And we say, not necessarily. You see, what this normally tells us, it broke down somewhere in the organization. The content's okay. It's just that they didn't support it, they didn't use it, and that's where it broke down. So it's like their problem, but we can correct their problem. That is, we can show them what they can do to make this work in the future. So we can take a negative and turn it around. And we have an interesting study here in our book, Proving the Value of Soft Skills. We have 7 case studies there. One of those is a coaching project where sales managers were coaching the sales team. And they kind of knew they were not doing it very well. And even the top executives in the sales area thinking, that coaching, I don't think is working. What this study did is to show them that it wasn't working. This is in a company called Abbott Laboratories. And now, by doing that calculation, Casey Buckley, the person who did the study, was able to show them, say, you kind of thought this wasn't working and it's not, but let me show you how it's affected this whole process, because without it, this thing is negative. So it got their attention and they went back and said, okay, we've got to step up and do this right going forward. So it took a negative and turned it into a positive. And she says that the negative study was probably one of the best things we did because it just amplified the fact that we needed to change something. And without the study, we probably would have continued on with a negative performance going on here. So yes, so we're in much better position if we start the process. Imagine if we've got a request that we've got a program in place and we're thinking about implementing a program, or maybe we already have it implemented. Instead of waiting for that person to ask us, we'd say, hey, this program has been operating for some time. We're going to check to make sure it's delivering the business value that we thought. If it doesn't, we can correct it. See, we're taking the initiative. You're in much better footing now to deal with that negative ROI. If you wait for them to tell you and it's negative, that's a little more difficult to deal with because they're wondering what else is out there that's negative that we don't know about and you don't know about. So that's why we want to be proactive. But the negative almost always turns into something positive. It's rare that we kill the program. We'd kill the program only if we concluded it was the wrong solution. And sometimes that's the case. But we'd suggest that's probably less than 5 to 10% of the time that we kill the program. It's really, we make the program better. So Jay, that's a great question. You and I probably have lost some hair because of those negative studies along the way. So good to see you. Any other comments,
Thanks,
Jay?
thanks, Jack. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. How's the family doing?
All doing good, thank you. All doing good.
All right. Good to
Growing,
hear. Good. Andy
but
says,
most enjoyable. Thanks, Jack.
Andy says we're going personal here. We need to shut this down, I think.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate it. I have more people staying on far later than I thought. So again, thank you so much for staying on a half an hour. Does anyone else have any other questions before we wrap up?
Carl, do you have any questions?
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay. It's good to have you with us. Thank you for coming.
Sorry, I came on late. I thought it was at noon.
Uh-oh. We do have this recorded.
Oh, okay. I thought it was on noon Eastern time, so, okay.
Okay. So, Andy, we have this recorded, is that correct?
That is correct, including the wonderful questions and answers at the end. So we'll make that available to you today, and you'll all receive an email with some further instructions. And if you need more training, if you need a bit deeper dive, again, we do have that boot camp coming up. It's 6 hours. Imagine what you learned today in an hour, and then just expand that to 6. And just think about how much more you could get from that course. And then, of course, our ROI certification program, where we spend 30 hours with you or more, and really get that expert opinion. And a couple of you were asking about retaking the course. Some of you were CRPs already. Yes, we have programs for that as well. It's the asynchronous program, live, virtual, and in person. If you need to take a refresher, give us a call. We'll work with you to schedule that and speak with you on how to get that done. So again, I want to thank you all and thank Jack.
Yes, again, thank you for coming. Mitek, good to see you again from Sylvania. We appreciate all the support. Again, let us know if we can help in any way. And thank you for inviting us into your home for at least an hour here. Take care.
Thank
Safe
you.
travel. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, bye.